Hi, Carl. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I've got Karl Gomes with me, the
Hello,
Karl
everyone.
Gomes. Okay, so Carl, yesterday when we met, in the evening and this morning over lunch, we were talking about there's one common theme that kept coming back. Your, statement that brands must have a purpose, and of course, we were coming from a digital lens, digital perspective. That's where 90% of our conversation was. But I thought there was something that kind of went beyond digital. Okay, so do you want to tell us what do you mean by brands having a purpose?
So I think uh, a very interesting video in 2009 by Simon Sinek about Start With Why. And that's what really inspired me to figure out what really brand purpose is. And if you actually look at uh, a lot of the iconic brands, whether it's Apple, whether it's Nike, whether it's Red Bull, they all started with a purpose. And that's what actually made them iconic. If you actually look at Apple, they've really not got a social media team, but everybody is an evangelist of Apple. Anyone who uses an Apple is an evangelist of Apple. And that is because of the purpose of the brand. Uh, if you pull out a little on how people really connect with people, it is because they connect with the vibe that a person gives. And the same thing I think goes for brands. Brands give out vibes today, and that actually comes from a brand purpose. Uh, if you actually think about, if you actually again look at uh, Apple, they're simple, they're sexy, and they connect with people because of uh, the philosophy of the brand. Today, if you actually think about, I think once upon a time, say for example, Flipkart. I thought they had a very interesting purpose when they started. It was about uh, even a child can use Flipkart, and over the years, brands that have lost their purpose end up giving discounts, end up giving freebies to bring back the customer. But that's momentary. That's temporary. But brands who stick with their purpose, I think, have a lot more to gain. If you and Simon Sinek also mentions people like Martin Luther King, for example, before social media. He
Yeah,
talks
yeah.
about how before social media he managed to get crowds to his philosophy, to his purpose. And I think today brands have to understand that and go back to
Yeah,
getting a purpose.
yeah.
For ex-
You mentioned Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. He didn't say
yeah,
I have a plan.
yeah. He said, "I have a
Right.
dream. I don't have a plan." And today everyone comes back
Yeah,
to an investor with a plan. They need
yeah,
to come back to an investor with a dream,
yeah, yeah.
and
Can
the
you
plan can happen.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give some examples of Indian brands who you think have a purpose?
I think one brand that I worked on in 2008 when I was at Leo Burnett was Tata Tea, Jagore.
Yeah, okay.
And I think tea in the country today wakes
Yeah,
people up.
yeah,
And at that
yeah,
time, they tapped into that purpose.
yeah, yeah.
In year one, they actually created a film
Okay.
that inspired everybody to
Vote,
wake
I
up
think.
and
Yeah,
go out and vote.
yeah,
But it
yeah,
was just a film.
yeah.
In the second year, we actually, when I was at Leo Burnett, we worked on Jagore and we created a platform to enable people to vote. So I think one is talking about your purpose. You cannot just talk about your purpose. You have to go out there and enable your purpose. And so therefore, I think Tata Tea, when we were working with Tata Tea in the second year, we actually created a platform to enable people to vote, to find their voters ID, to get their
Right.
voters ID. And I
Yes,
think you
yes.
don't just talk about your purpose, you should also enable people to follow your purpose, believe in the purpose. For
Correct.
example, Red Bull, they have a beautiful purpose. I love their purpose about giving you wings. But if you actually see that they don't just talk about wings, but they also enable people with wings to fly.
Yes, yes.
And people who connect with their purpose, either join the bandwagon, either go out there and connect with the brand or connect with the people who enable that purpose. So I think that's what it is. So you connect with your evangelists, you connect with your audiences with a purpose. Some brands that we worked on recently, like for example JSW or ICICI Bank, we started with the purpose, and the moment we got that purpose, it became a lot more easier to get influencers, to get evangelists, to get advocates on board, because advocates, evangelists, influencers, missionaries connect with that. And I think religion also, if you actually think about religion, it is also a brand. And what does religion have? It has a purpose, it has a belief. And if you want people to believe in your brands, I think purpose is the most important thing. And today we let go of that in the form of, so if you look at the media landscape, another way to look at it would be we mostly spend a lot of money on paid media, and we don't create own media, we don't create earned media. We spend a little money on in all of that, and I think
If
that's.
you can go back to purpose, and religion, it's a very interesting metaphor, very interesting thing you said. ISIS has a purpose, right?
So I think fanaticism.
Yeah. Okay,
So
okay.
yeah, obviously, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
how does ISIS actually get people
yeah.
on their purpose? Because they
Yes,
have a
yes, yes.
purpose,
Of course, of
and
course.
and I,
Taliban, etc. They're very sharp, very clear about the
yeah,
purpose. Yeah,
however right, however wrong they may be,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's dangerous
Yes,
because
yes.
a bad purpose
Yeah.
can do a lot more damage than a
Uh-huh.
great purpose.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, that only proves that
Yes,
purpose is
yes, yes.
as
It's
important.
very, yeah, yeah. It's very important. What about the newer brands that are emerging in the digital landscape? By digital landscape, I mean brands that are not just the internet driven, but depend on the internet. Whether you call it e-commerce or whatever you like, to grow their footprint, grow brand love. Uh, Brands like, say, I don't know. What are the more recent Indian
For
brands that come to
example,
mind?
Practo.
Practo, yeah, sure, sure, Practo.
So
Yeah,
Practo, I don't really know what their purpose is, but I'm sure their purpose is to make healthcare accessible
convenient,
to
accessible.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah. It was a nightmare getting through to a doctor.
Correct,
I
correct,
mean, doctors didn't even take your calls, right?
correct.
So yeah, they're solving a
So
problem.
there
Sure.
must be a subtle purpose there that is
Yeah.
connecting doctors
Sure,
and
sure,
people
sure.
to it.
Sure,
And
sure,
and
sure.
there could be Me Too brands that get in. Like for
Yeah.
example, another interesting brand would be Uber, a global
Uber,
brand.
right, right.
But one is the purpose, two is executing that purpose. If you believe you're in the service industry, I think Uber by far today, if you look at the drivers, if you look at the cars, everything, availability, obviously some places Ola would be more available, but I would go first with Uber and then check out any other service provider if they're not available. So I think there is a subtle connect. We human beings vibe with each other. Like that, I think we vibe with brands also today.
Yes, yes, sure, sure.
And if today I use a brand because of a discount, I'm not going to tell anybody. If I
Right.
use a brand because of a freebie, I may not tell anyone. But if I use a brand because I love it, I will tell the world. And I think that's what
Okay.
brand purpose really brings back to the table. If you see,
Sure.
if you see Nike, for example, their purpose is if you have a body or an athlete, and therefore not just clothes, not just shoes, but they also went into different other spaces that is enabling you by connecting you with social gadgets, by connecting you with either uh, fit band kind of the fuel band. So they do a lot more around the purpose. And then the purpose is in the form of a manifesto. Today, brands write a manifesto that actually is what explains the purpose to people. Once upon a time, the manifesto used to be vision and mission. That was very internal to the company. Today, that manifesto in the form of vision and mission becomes a purpose and becomes an external blueprint for the company,
Sure.
and that not should not just drive just the advertising, but also should drive how the brand behaves, how the brand talks, how the brand communicates, and how the brand actually conducts itself in the real world.
Yeah. So you're saying purpose is beyond functional. Purpose is, meaning. It kind of expands, helps me expand my life, my existence. It helps me, connect with something bigger than myself, a
Correct,
bigger shared experience,
correct.
something like that.
So purpose, I think,
Would
was
you?
there. Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry. Would you say Patanjali has a purpose? I have a feeling what you're saying completely.
I think
It's
they
very
do, and I
purposeful.
think they do. I think the purpose is going back to the start for Patanjali. It is about going back to how medicine was once upon a time, how FMCG was once upon a time. It was all natural, and I think that is a subtle purpose that they actually have in the back of their head, and which is where people connect with it. Like for example, all over the world, if you actually look at uh, a lot of brands, whether it's Chipotle, whether it's all these brands, they're going back to the start, and I think Patanjali is tapping onto that element. Also, Patanjali, unlike the other FMCG brands, they have one plot, and that goes across all their products. They don't have different marketing strategies for different products,
No, they don't.
and I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that
Not
also
at this
helps,
stage. Yeah,
and
yeah.
that also helps. I think a brand
Absolutely. Yeah,
to
yeah.
get. So now
Sure.
whether some of the products are Ayurvedic, some of the products are natural, I really don't know. But I think that natural bit of it, that organic bit of it, is what actually connects with
Yeah,
people.
you're
I'm
right.
guessing.
You're right. There's nothing Ayurvedic about noodles.
Correct.
There's nothing Ayurvedic about toothpaste, I think. But yes, they do use natural ingredients, and the core essence, to my mind, is tradition, Indian
Correct.
tradition. Um, the kind of modernizing,
Correct.
bringing science to Indian tradition,
Correct.
something like that. And there's also a very strong element of patriotism in it,
Correct.
in all their products, so it's, taking on the big guys, the
Right.
MNCs, etc. So maybe that's the purpose. I mean,
And if you actually look at it in Goa, for
yeah,
example,
yeah.
all the foreigners there are all using Patanjali because they came for the Indian experience, and they believe
Okay.
that
Yeah.
Patanjali is more Indian than any of the brands that they're using.
Right,
And
right,
if you
right.
see in most shops in North Goa, you would find Patanjali out there and
Okay.
people using Patanjali. So I think that's a great
Uh,
example of how.
I think my videos, where it'll go up, YouTube, on my Facebook page, a lot of Patanjali people. So hopefully they'll like it, like what they're hearing about Patanjali. Uh, I'm not sure if, they can stay with this
Purpose.
particular defining purpose for the next 5 years. I think they have to change,
I think it should
because
evolve. It should
yeah, they
evolve with
have to
what people
evolve
like.
fast. From what I'm hearing, they
Correct.
should evolve in the
Correct.
next 2 3 years. But for now, they're good. They have a very good purpose.
It's
Yeah,
it's like human beings. At the end of the
yeah,
day, today, if you ask a human being what's your purpose, it's
yeah,
difficult to
yeah, yeah,
tap into it. You have micro goals,
yeah, yeah.
okay, and you have micro purposes along the way. And over time, when you look back, it all connects, like Steve Jobs had once said. It connects, and that's why you see how your purpose evolves. And over time, all the iconic brands have evolved their purpose, but they've stayed in the same space.
In the same space,
But the
right,
moment
right.
you shift your space, you may lose your audiences. So don't. I would suggest don't shift your space completely. Evolve, and make small changes that make it a bigger, better purpose rather than shift your purpose completely.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Carl.
A
Always a pleasure
pleasure.
to talk to you.
Thank you for the lunch too.
Okay.